And I don't mean to be complaining. I'm not complaining about the outside. It's the inside in the studio. It's just extremely, extremely hot.
Just for the record, it is officially cooler in here in the studio than it will be today.
It is. Oh, it is just barely, though.
It's 77.
Oh,
that's
only
what it says
77.
anyway.
It just feels so much hotter than that.
It
All
does.
right, Christine has some social media comments that are being made. People are piping in on the issue of the pediatrics. Again, in reviewing this, pediatricians in the area, 3 facilities, pretty popular and well-respected facilities, have opted to no longer affiliate with the Utica hospitals. Instead, they're sending patients, and their affiliation will be with Golisano Hospital in Syracuse. I can't imagine that when this letter went out to patients, parents of patients, I cannot imagine that there wasn't some anticipation of a firestorm. And it's also interesting to note that when you spoke with the people at Mohawk Valley Health Systems yesterday, last night, when the letters started to become open, people are opening up their mail when they get home, they were surprised, right? They had heard rumblings but did not know that it had happened.
That it had actually happened, yes. A lot of people with whom I spoke last night were surprised. A, that a decision had actually been formalized, and B, that letters were actually sent out to parents. So yes, like it was very surprising to some people because we were notifying them that the quote unquote break or the severing had.
That is always the most. If you're in the business of news and a reporter, it's always the most amazing time when you're informing someone of something and getting their initial response that has not been thought out. Mm-hmm. I kind of be the equivalent, if you're in the jewelry business, of a lot of gold being dumped onto your table there. Mm-hmm. Christine, social media is pretty much on fire on this thing.
Right. So Kayla says, we love Utica Pediatrics, and I completely trust their decision in a dire emergency. Obviously, we would still go to St. Luke's, but if it's something that can tolerate a 45-minute drive, I would prefer Golisano anyways, top-of-the-line pediatric care. Suzanne says, so if I'm understanding this correctly, if my child has an actual emergency, they want me to drive an hour to a hospital in Syracuse. That is not the case. They are not telling you to drive an hour to the hospital in Syracuse if you have an actual emergency. They want you to go to the emergency room. They're simply saying hospitalizations that are not emergencies are going to be referred to Golisano.
Examples, your appendix, your tonsils. Already, right, you're being sent to Syracuse if there's something that's extremely complicated or something that there's thought of, where a specialist is needed. Chances are you're already going to Syracuse anyway.
Right.
But this is just for the more routine items, but also with childbirth, right? I guess I'm somewhat confused with that. I believe in the letter they touted the childbirth center, birthing center, over at St. Luke's.
At St. Luke's, right.
However, after that point, your doctor won't be coming around and checking on you and the baby.
Right.
Because they're not, I don't want to say allowed in the hospital, but if you're not affiliated, there are many legal aspects.
There, right.
The privileges, the insurance, and everything else. So also on social media.
Nicholas says, I'm glad they left that group. If my child needs care, I'm still going to a local hospital. Jay says, you have Little Falls and possibly Hamilton Hospital as options, or you may have to find another doctor since they combined. Things have gotten worse. The last time I had to go to the ER at St. Luke's, I sat in the waiting room for 9.5 hours in unbearable pain, and continues on.
Oh, you had a story just this week?
Right.
Just that. 8 hours and about a 2-minute examination that ended up being rushed and incorrect.
And interesting that we were talking about that off the air prior to this story.
Yeah. And can I just make one reference here, one point, and that is this is by no means, we're not ripping on the quality of the pediatricians or the doctors or the nurses or the staff. It seems to be that this is more of an issue of the staffing. I still believe there are great doctors here and great nurses, but I think this is more of an issue of staffing. And by the signs that we see when we're driving down the road, that might be just that.
Curie says we trust these doctors 100%, so if this is their decision, then we're good, and Golisano took excellent care of our son last month. Suzanne says, and if I choose to go somewhere closer like St. Elizabeth's 5 minutes from my home or St. Luke's 10 minutes, is my insurance not going to cover the hospital visit? And then Shelley says it's the communication between places. Doctor will not be able to get reports automatically. Dana pipes in and says your insurance has nothing to do with the distance. So we are going to continue to follow this and attempt to. We have open invitations out to any of those directly involved with the decision-making process here to give us a call and speak with us on the record, preferably. But if you have more information to give us off the record, we'll take that too. But we'd prefer on the record because that is what we think is required.
Hey, if I could speak the obvious, what a PR nightmare for Mohawk Valley Health Systems. A PR nightmare. This is just disastrous, I would think.
Had you just mentioned the staffing situation maybe being part of this?
Yeah, it's something we've talked about all morning long, and we had someone call in. I'm not sure that you heard the call, but she had said she was in the health industry, and everyone wants to be talking, and they don't want their name out there, and you can't blame them. But she said that basically that it is an issue of staffing.
This situation, it just makes me wonder.
And pediatric surgeons as well. That there's a shortage here, and that could be part of the reason. I think that's what she specifically said.
I'm just thinking out loud. If the staffing situation, okay, I thought you meant staffing with nurses. Maybe you're talking about doctors.
Oh no, we are talking about that. And,
okay,
and that's what those signs that are very vague. They're all over the area. Talk about whether it's St. Luke's or St. E's. Listen to your nurses, as Andrew said earlier. Proper staffing or strategic staffing saves lives. I don't think you can look at this and say that the two don't have anything to do with each other.
Well, and that's why this is such a PR challenge, let's say, and it is because there are so many issues that are coming to a head right now. You have those who are directly impacted by the restructuring of Mohawk Valley Health System, and those who are directly impacted are polarized either completely for it or completely against it. So you have that aspect. You have the staffing issue. You may or may not have a pediatric surgeon availability issue.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. It sounds like there's a
conflagration of issues that
not the word I was going to use, but you're
and I don't
absolutely
even know
right.
that that's the right word, but
you're absolutely right. It's all of these things, and it almost like feels that there was something that served as the straw that broke the camel's back for these pediatricians.
And for that reason, it would be beneficial, I think, for all parties involved, for them to come out and say publicly, other than this letter, which leaves a lot up to.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if the staffing situation was fixed, I couldn't see this letter, them saying, okay, you can go back to Utica now. Type of a thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, this seems pretty. This seems pretty permanent. Quickly, because I got to move on.
And not to mention the fact that if these parents are going to call the doctors now, if that's the only place they can get answers, what's going to happen? Those offices of those doctors is going to be flooded with phone calls today.
Already,
the kids that have emergencies are not going to maybe possibly get through because parents are saying, "Well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?" So they've got that nightmare to deal with too.
Julie offers a word here this morning that we could have used: cluster. I like that, Julie. It's short,
Was that the only
sweet,
word in the phrase?
Right to the point. Here's Christine with an update. 7:21. Christine Bellino, good morning.
Good morning, and this news update is brought to you by City Suburban Route 233 in Westmoreland. Cool your home with a 100% peace of mind guarantee. Call City Suburban or go to citysuburban.com. A new State Department report critical of Hillary Clinton's email practices while she was serving as U.S. Secretary of State. Verizon claims that striking workers are illegally harassing their replacements, and the CEO of Disney firing back at Bernie Sanders.
And your forecast is hot. Plenty of clouds today, but some sun as well. So sun and clouds, high 86. Tomorrow, sun and clouds, high 89. Saturday, sun and clouds, a little more sun than we'll see today and tomorrow, but 92 the high and 85 on Sunday. A hot Memorial Day weekend is on the way. Currently, it's mostly clear and 58 degrees at WIBX.